Hey, what's up? Hello, chat. Hello. How are we? We have 2 hours to go until our lives are all bettered. Hi, Rebecca. What's up, chat? We're going to be going through some Baldur's Gate lore, looking at the class and race videos, and just hanging out. And when that timer hits 0, we're going to be playing some Baldur's Gate 3. They gave me permission to preload the game. So we're not downloading anything, we're just hopping straight in. We have had an unfortunate roadblock, though. We've had an unfortunate incident. The plan was to go live in 2 hours with our co-op playthrough. And we've just found out that Kraken has no internet. His ISP went down this morning. So, he has a technician coming. So what we might do is we might start a solo run. And then we'll swap to the multiplayer one when and if Kraken becomes available. He can't catch a break, dude. He said to me he was going to be up at 7 a.m. ready to stream. And then I guess at like 3 a.m. he realized his internet was out. And so he hasn't slept and he's been just calling the support non-stop, trying to get it fixed. And they said at like 5 a.m. that they were going to send a technician out ASAP. So Kraken sabotaging the playthrough even starts. I know. He always finds a way. ASAP for ISPs means next week. I don't know. Apparently his entire building is out. So it's like a pretty serious issue. So they're sending a technician. I don't know what that means. But we were starting at 8 a.m. PST. I don't think that's happening. I don't think Kraken is going to be ready by then. So we'll do a solo run until he's ready.
Skynet got him.
Would have been saying to tether his phone and use that. I don't think he. Yeah, he's in LA, man. There's no good phone tethering. He should get a really long internet cable into Ethernet in it from his neighbor. Did you just not hear me say his entire building is out? Like his entire apartment complex doesn't have internet. Did you play Early Access? Yes. 3 years ago, I played through Chapter 1 in Early Access. And then I put the game down and I never played it again because I didn't want to spoil myself. And I have not played any updates. Are you doing your co-op character in solo or something else? We'll do something else. So, I think for the multiplayer group, I have settled on, a Lolth Drow Ranger doing Gloomstalker is what I'm going to go for. And then for our solo playthrough, we might do Circle of the Moon Druid. We randomly rolled. We randomly rolled what class we would get, and my choices were Drow Ranger, High Elf Druid, or Wild Magic Barbarian. Dwarf Wild Magic Barbarian. Dry range running out a lot of RP mileage. Yeah, I think we're doing like a. I think we're doing like a kind of like an Underdark party. I think we're all going to be Underdark. Who's laid on the screen? That's our character from the Conan RP server we were playing last week and the week prior. That Cookie Hana drew, and I thought it was awesome, so I made it the background. Yo, let's check Reddit. Let's watch some lore videos. I got some breakfast to eat. Got coffee on the way. If there's any... Have fun streaming. I'm gonna shut the net off for half a month for Baldur's Gate. Alright, have fun, man. Don't shut it off before you download. The current background is Hana? Yeah, this is Cookie Hana. A lot of you know Cookie is just like one of my mods that talks a lot of shit, but she's actually an incredible artist, which is how I discovered her in the first place. Does she have a Twitter? She sure does. Wait, maybe she doesn't. Maybe she got rid of it. Oh no, she's got it. It's here. I got it. I got it. This is Cookie. With the tag. This is me shooting her as a banner. This is Cookie. She's cute. Give her a follow. At xCookieHunter. Yeah, I'm pretty cute. She does the God's work. When we get a VTuber? Bruh. I don't know, man. Like, literally, do you know how hard it is to commission a VTuber model? I have tried so many people. It's fucking impossible, bro. It is impossible.
Why did
you made the commission yet? I'm on waiting lists for like 3 people.
Wish you a wonderful time in Baldur's Gate 3.
It's like insane. Everyone thinks it's gonna make them like famous. Famous. Quantize you could have gotten a dramatic version. Genoma like only works for like Iron Mouse now. Iron Mouse commissions like 9 models a year for no fucking reason. You ask Juniper to make you one? No, should I? I'll ask Junie. Right, let's browse Reddit. Underdark Basics. What's this?
Welcome to the Underdark, home to the Underminer, mole people, lizard men who run our government, more slavers, and the subjects of exceptional controversy, the Drow. And before you ask, yes, I will be mentioning that book that I be writing. A pet catalog for D&D that'll have around 100 companions from folklore, Dungeons & Dragons, and my odd noggin. Just to spark your interest before the video, a few guys we don't have art yet for are axolotls, shamrosh, pygmy owlbears, black pudding cups, and tanuki. Let's get started. The Underdark, a place Wizards of the Coast care more about than my father did about his oddly hairy son, is a vast, multi-layered underworld that's like a dark mockery of the world above. The first layer of the Underdark, the Upper Dark, is like the appetizer of what the depths have to offer. Here we have a few dark elves, some deep gnomes, the loser's corner for stone giants, and some classic dangers like spiders and the aforementioned drow. Also, someone jammed a pencil into the map a few times, and now we have a way to get in and out of the Underdark. Well, mostly in. Then you die. Below that is a 7-mile deep Middle Dark, 3 miles below. This is the established Underdark, and the place adventures happen. We've got bigger cities, bigger monsters, and like 200,000 mind flayers controlling everything secretly. And lastly, the Lower Dark, which is inhabited exclusively by Dark Souls bosses and one snack bar that only has off-brand snacks and a broken nacho cheese dispenser. Most of the Underdark consists of massive caverns, glowing mushrooms, stone cities, dark lakes, painfully long tunnels, and hungry everything. If you haven't caught on, the Underdark was made to kill you. Stale air, barren mazes, toxic spores, ooze, lava, darkness, maddening silence, and this one guy, Dale. No one knows his deal, but I mean, look at him. It's a great setting for a lighthearted adventure if those light hearts are surrounded by darkness and death. One interesting detail is a constant, benevolent magical force called the Fa-Eshres. There's like one pronunciation guide. I don't know. With ancient elven origins, these little arcane hotspots of magical power are a priceless resource for Underdark dwellers. Now let's look at some of the most well-known residents of the Underdark and ask why the hell they're down here being all sad and grumpy and hitting everything really hard. First and foremost, as cliche as it is, are the Drow, the Underdark equivalent of humans. Of course, because they aren't in Vanilla Town in the overworld in one specific location, they're elves. Go figure. These cold-hearted asswipes are pretentious, abusive, hateful, and the best damn slavers this side of the ceaseless wheel. They worship Lolth, the evil goddess of the world's most skin-crawling denizens that fit within a square inch, and the queen of lying for personal benefit. As a matriarchal society, the Drow worship the power of women and set up their hierarchy in that order. That's their only respectable quality. They'll set up raids to the overworld, use their widely famous Drow poison, or arrows tipped with fast-acting roofies, and then carry their haul down a comedically long ladder to be sold into eternal slavery. To sum them up, everything but a Drow to a Drow is either livestock or a threat. I'd tell you why the Drow are in the Underdark, but when I asked, they lied to me, so I don't know. Next up are our beloved aberrations. We've got Aboleths, the classic Cthulhu kin who used to rule the world before being driven into underground lakes and kiddie pools by gods. We also have Cloakers, the evil xenophobic cousins of Doctor Strange's cape. We've got Beholders, who use the earth and stone like pre-built walls to protect themselves from our world, and Illithids, the once glorious empire of squid-faced star people who invested too much money in enslaving people that didn't really want to work that hard. So they got beat to shit and then wound up sulking in damp caves. Aberration's history is literally just foreign kids showing up to a new school that they don't know anything about, and then having everyone throw rocks at them and scream things like, "You're weird! Get lost, loser! Brains aren't food, stop eating mine!" We're all just a bag of dicks, man. We need to be more accepting. Hello, this is Editing Logan. I'm here to tell you that I don't want to spread misinformation, and that it is in fact pronounced Duergar, like do or die. Now listen to me say it wrong. Idiot! Duergar and Darrow are both pretty depressing. A while ago, some dwarves were tricked by mind flayers to file into their lair like lemmings and become a new wave of their slaves. Happiness, trust, faith, joy, passion, and all sense of fulfillment was completely erased from their minds by the mind flayers. Then this one dude couldn't take it anymore, so he made a pact with Satan and liberated his people from Squidward, and now they help Satan fight the Spider Queen.
That's why they're
because
resistant
that's
to
what the
mind shit?
Underdark is like. But now they're essentially a hollow, hateful, greedy, and industrious version of their old selves. Like the IRS. Darrow are the dudes whose insurance wasn't covered by Satan's pact. So they stayed behind a bit longer, suffered a bit more, and then eventually found their way out. But now they smear poop on the walls, cast spells, and lick up their own snot rockets. They're gross, they're crazy, and I love them for no reason. Deep gnomes, or smurf goblins, are surprisingly cool. These pot-bellied, crimson-chinned bald men spend their time living honest, civilized lives. They have defined gender roles, which may ruffle your bag of ruffles, but it works great for them, and everyone's happy in their culture. They may occasionally come off as sexist with their perceptions, so it's your job to prove that not all races or people are that simple. They have a knack for gemstones, but are the kind to haggle for them instead of swinging wide and using your now bodiless head as a carrying case. You know, like everyone else I just mentioned would. Before we wrap up, let's look at some of the most interesting locations the Underdark has to offer.
The Sloob
Starting with Menzo Baranzan, the city of spiders. About 2 miles down, around 25,000 drow call this arrow-shaped citadel home. And this is the main place where the story of Dritz takes place. Then we have Blingdenstone, the most masterfully crafted gnome city I've ever read about. You could walk through its entirety without ever knowing it was populated by hundreds of gnomes. Suspicious of outsiders, they've built defensive layers of traps, followed by masterfully crafted, fake real caves. The
Duergar,
bastion of trade, Gracklestug is also known as the City of Blades. This is the most common inlet for overworld trade, and is a boiling furnace of progress. As rough and grating as this place can be, it embodies all of the not quite deadly features that the Underdark has to offer. Gauntlgrim, the subject of an entire novel in the Legend of Dritz, is an ancient dwarven city. Here you'll find dwarven hospitality, infinite amounts of precious metal, and a rich history carved into every stone. Lastly, and my absolute favorite location, is Neverlight Grove. Remember my video about mushroom people? This is their home, and it's perfect
is the one that's in the
every
game.
way. A conglomeration of 2 loving sovereigns, which has never been seen before, and their buttload of spore circles provide generous resources to any passer-throughs. Neverlight Grove is a spongy respite full of spores. This grove inspired Stibble's meeting with Dave, the fungal folk who would lead the charge into the surface and form a new culture of sun-enduring shroom men. Before I detail a couple of our companions and some stretch goals, I wanted to give a huge thanks to R.A. Salvatore, whose novel series brought the Underdark to life, and also to Will Savino, a wildly talented composer who not only created the underlying tracks for this video, but also gave us the music that you hear in the cinematic for Stibble's Codex of Companions. We've seen remarkable support from all of our backers, much more than we expected for my first book. This little bestiary now has 10 additional eldritch companions, like this Skinty, a divine ball of spaghetti with a passion for painting. We also have more options for plushies and chibis, a boatload of material for every type of player, and a dedicated upload covering some of my personal favorites. It really is hard to pick favorites looking at the roster so far, with companions ranging from the gummy bear ooze to the literal vine snake, or even oddities like the living silhouette and a duck. Go check it out, consider grabbing something, and I'll keep bringing you content whose quality.
Thank you, Runesmith. Thank you. Just knowing they don't use Prime Source for the mobile app. I know. Thanks for the resub though, Beegis.
Ah, boy! What's up, bruv? What brings you in today? Mate, you look huge. Oh, ladies, what's good?
Counter.
God damn it. So you know what's his new banner? If I had to guess, it would be Axel pissing and then other dudes looking at his dick. But I haven't seen it. Drow lore. Alright, let's do it.
Welcome back for another lore video. In this video, we're going to talk about a subrace of elves who are greatly feared across the continent of Faerun, the Drow. So grab your coffee, enjoy the fire, and join me on a journey to the Underdark.
Oh shit. Okay, hang on. My coffee's actually 3 minutes away, so maybe we should wait. Well, wait. I don't have to stop. Chat witness. Let's have a look. Oh my god, I fucking called it. He's so predictably chaotic. It's pretty good. What's this? Let's get some clips going.
Damn it, they're going the other way. Oh, shit. Oh.
Dude. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Go get your daddy, boy. Go get your daddy.
So, I guess Joe made AJ from the orphans that we played as a character in Wild RP, and Toad adopted him. But the character I played, Pip, was AJ's sister. So I might show up and just like power game. I might show up and just power game Chief into being my dad. Wait, don't ban that guy. Don't give him what he wants. Unban him. Let him writhe. He's spamming slurs? He said cunt. That's all he said.
Dude. Oh boy.
Oh, they were coming? He didn't have the balls for that, dude. Alright, he peaked. Trust me, I know these people. I put non-limited on the Reddit. Alright, is this a robbery? What's this?
Can you give me a hand? Oh yeah, forgive me for asking. Is this like a robbery setup? Oh, there it is. Okay.
This is a robbery.
Forgive me for asking, but is this like a... Oh, yeah, there it is.
Can you give me a hand? Oh yeah, forgive me for asking. Is this like a robbery setup? Oh, there it is. Okay.
This is a robbery.
Hey, Strippin, I hope you enjoy your playthrough. Enjoy the stream. Thank you so much, Bruno. Thanks for popping in, man. Appreciate it. Hey, my food's outside, so I'll be right back. And then we'll watch this video. Thanks, man. Have a good day. Yeah. Yeah. You know what's crazy about food stuff? Is it blows my mind. Okay. So I use Deliveroo. It's like Uber Eats. Okay, it's just Uber Eats for my area. It's called Deliveroo. And they've introduced this thing where it's like, to confirm that the food is yours, they give you a 2-digit code. They give you a 2-digit code, right? And then, but the code never changes. Okay? The code, like, it never changes. So, like, they gave me a code when it first came out, and the code is always the same. It's tied to your account. So now, and it's the same, so the same delivery guys live in my area, right? So it's reached a point where I don't need to give them the code anymore. They know my code. And they just put it in themselves. So what the fuck is the point in the code? If they want my food, they could just type in the code and take it. Like, okay, maybe I order too much. Okay, maybe I order too much food. That's on me. But still, they know my code. So what's the point in the code? Anyway, yeah, just had to get that off my chest, you know? Fucking insanity over here. Anyway, let's watch this.
The Drow are a playable race in Baldur's Gate.
I've heard
3, and
Wolfheart
like
is
the
great.
Yankee, they should offer a unique and interesting experience. If you are one of the Drow who ventures to the surface world, you should expect to encounter feelings of mistrust and fear almost everywhere you go. Will you break the stereotypes of your race, like one named Drizzt Do'Urden, or will you give in to your more evil inclinations? Either way, your journey shall be a tale to be told for generations to come. At the end of this video, we'll talk about some of the advantages and disadvantages to being a Drow in Baldur's Gate 3.
So the reason Drizzt is so popular is because he was a Drow that became a hero. And he's the only one who's never not evil. He's the only Drow that's not been inherently evil. He's the biggest Mary Sue. He's not the only one, but he's the most famous. Right. Right.
So you want to stick around for that. If you guys end up enjoying this video, please subscribe, for there's much more Baldur's Gate 3 content on the way. Let's get right into it.
There are lots of non-evil
The
Drow.
Drow,
Elistray has
also
a whole
known as the
following.
Dark Elves, live below the
Here's the problem, okay, is the character...
Drizzt
race-
is the marketable plushie of
The race
Drow.
that I rolled is a Lolth Drow, which means that, like, they're evil, right? Because there's Drows being good, but Lolth Drows specifically are evil. So my character is evil.
surface of Faerûn in the Underdark. They were a dark-skinned subrace of the elves, and were for the most part feared and hated by most other races. They were shorter and thinner than the other sub-races of elves, standing typically between 4'7" and 5'5", and weighing between 90 and 160 pounds.
Oh, Drizzt is a
If you are
Lolth
one
Drow?
to think of their smaller stature as a disadvantage, you will quickly find yourself 6 feet deep beneath the ground. A Drow could live for centuries, sometimes up to 750 to 800 years before passing from a natural death. However, unnatural deaths involving violence were far too common. For all you beard lovers, I hate to tell you, but the Drow were incapable of growing beards, but they were capable of sometimes growing long sideburns, so maybe you could settle for mutton chops. The Drow were a very intelligent race, many may argue more intelligent than most other sentient creatures. However, their seclusion in the Underdark would make them lack in the wisdom of the world. From birth, the Drow were taught that they were superior to other races, which led to arrogant, ambitious,
As if
sadistic,
Sam plays a melee
treacherous
Drow? Yeah, why the fuck
personalities.
would I play a melee
If
Drow?
this doesn't
guys? Come on.
appeal to you, fear not, for there were some who challenged the ways of their upbringings, and ultimately
Can't
became
have a
heroes
beard?
of the
Not
surface
interested.
world. Drizzt Do'Urden is a prime example, and if you're looking for an inspiring epic tale of a Drow elf, start with the Legend of Drizzt book series. The first
I'll tell you right now, any man who can't grow a beard is inherently evil. That's a fact.
couple books are also set in his homeland of the Underdark, and will give you a deep understanding of the cruel Drow
They have Drow
culture.
blood.
Any
in
other
them.
good Drow who had good morals would find themselves still conducting
Bro,
immoral actions.
dude,
for the pressure
I'm
of
sorry. The amount of people I just wounded.
society was too high.
I'm joking.
The good Drow
My
who had the
smooth-chinned
courage,
friends.
or shall I
I'm
say
joking. It's
stupidity,
okay.
to let themselves be known, were oftentimes sacrificed to the goddess of the Drow, Lolth, the queen of spiders. Most Drow's goals in life were to increase their station.
Lolth wasn't originally the Queen of Spiders, though, right? She became evil. I guess that's a different lore video we have to watch, but...
They desired the power over others that would bring. This often led to violent competition, which many times was conducted through methods of assassination outside of the public eye. Showing emotions like compassion or love was very rare for a Drow, for it would offer enemies easy ways to exploit. Their culture turned them into distrustful sadists, as they derived pleasure from inflicting cruelty on those weaker than themselves. Much of the Drow's evil alignment comes from their worship of the Demon Lord, Queen of Spiders and Goddess, Lolth. Lolth drove the Drow into heavy infighting under the pretense of calling the weak, while her true goals were to hold absolute power and control over the Drow and extinguish the rise of any alternative faiths. The Drow lived in city-states characterized by a theocratic, matriarchal, and militaristic society. The Drow nominally had two purposes, the first being that of forcing all other races of the Underdark into subservience. The second was about driving the entire elven population to extinction. Their goddess Lolth convinced the Drow they needed to engage in perpetual infighting and violent competition, which would ultimately make them stronger and smarter. The chaos and self-destruction that would come from this would actually prevent the Drow from reaching their purposes, and it could be thought that this was purely entertainment for the Queen of Spiders. Despite this, the Drow continues to worship Lolth and seek her favor. The Drow's most known city was called Menzoberranzan, the City of Spiders. It was a large underground city-state in the upper North Dark. The location of Menzoberranzan was actually fairly close to the dwarven city of Mithril Hall. A tunnel known as Dry Gully Tunnel was one entrance into the Underdark from the surface. Many Drow raiding parties would use this tunnel to raid the surface world inhabitants. Menzoberranzan was located.
Oh, gee. So this is like a map of the Underdark? Or is this just the city? This looks like it's one city.
Located in a huge arrow-shaped cavern, about 2 miles wide and 1,000 feet high. The city was mainly carved from calcite, and it was filled.
Isn't the Underdark insanely, like, defensible if it's literally, like, in caves with a ceiling? Like, you can't do anything.
With blue, green, and violet fairy fire. This cavern had a high density of Fair's
Like,
rust,
you can't use
which
siege
is a
weapons,
magical
you can't-
radiation only found in the Underdark. This radiation would help build and hold the city together, as well as interfering with the casting of
I guess you could just dig
teleportation
down.
and divination spells. It was a nice natural defense for the city. Menzoberranzan was founded by a priestess of Lolth named Menzobera. By the wishes of Lolth herself, Menzobera led 7 Drow families from the city of Golathair to the North Dark. The city of
Wait, this is a map of the Darklands? Look at the size of it. I guess it, like, exists just completely under the real map in entirety.
The city of Menzoberranzan was born. Claiming this giant cavern was not easy, however, for there was a clan of dwarves and other Underdark natives that already regarded it as their home. Drow city-states were made up of different noble houses. These were the powerful and rich families. They owned large estates where the strongest house would often have a large public temple dedicated to Lolth. Second in power to the houses were the merchant clans, and most who didn't fall into either of these categories lived a life of desperation, oppression, and poverty. The houses were led by female Drow, called the Matron Mothers, who were powerful priestesses of Lolth. Under them were the female members ranked by age, the male officers, other male members who were also ranked by age, and then at the very bottom, the servants and slaves. The men shall be fighting for equal rights in this society. In most cases, a matron mother only lost her position if murdered by her eldest daughter, in which typically marked a new direction for the house or its total destruction. When the houses went to war with each other, the attacking house would have to eradicate the entire enemy family with one single attack, and if even one member of the family being attacked survived, the member could apply for justice and the entire city would turn on the attackers. What a brutal society. Exterminate all and everything will be okay. Leave even one alive and we will punish you. Although shifty, untrusty alliances were formed between the houses at times, no alliances were.
Wait, so, yeah. Girl Boss Gaslight Gatekeep is actually the creed of the
when
Drow.
one house was attacking another in one of these noble wars. Covert warfare between houses through methods such as assassination were not exactly forbidden. However, it was only tolerated for a certain amount of time before the Drow's ruling council forced the two houses to enter open war. Like I said before, the Legend of Drizzt book series, in the first couple books you get a real good understanding of the Drow society, especially with warring houses. Slavery in the Drow society played an important role. Half to 2/3 of a normal Drow city's population consisted of slaves. Many households had 2 to 3 slaves per member. Any unskilled labor in the city was carried out by these slaves, so the slave trade was quite a booming business. Slaves were not always captured, but many times bred or bought from sellers. The Drow saw their slaves as cheap, replaceable tools that they were allowed to treat with cruelty and exploit them at will. A slave was generally not allowed to look a Drow in the eye or carry a weapon unless given permission. Various creatures and races were used as slaves, from using their own Drow to having highly valued dwarven labor to the common goblins and bugbears. During a period of time known as the Silence of Lolth, where the goddess of Lolth did not answer any of her supplicants and the Drow clerics were unable to use divination magic, a group of renegade Mal Drow led a slave uprising, which ultimately forced the slaughter of a large number of slaves. Soon after this slave revolt, the leaders of the Drow city received word that the dwarven subrace called the Duergar were amassing an army to attack the city of Menzoberranzan. The Drow army marched out to meet them, where they were ambushed and lost a fourth to a third of their total number. They were forced to retreat back to the city.
Oh my
Then
god, they
came
got
the
absolutely
siege of
owned by the
Menzoberranzan
dwarves.
itself. Luckily for the Drow, the Silence of Lolth ended, and Lolth's priestesses regained their power, and the Drow were able to defeat and force the retreat of the invading army. Menzoberranzan and the Drow society would recover, and the city mostly returned back to normal. Now let's talk about the advantages or disadvantages that being a Drow might bring you in Baldur's Gate 3. We'll start off with the bad news. Drow have a weakness to light in general, as do many creatures and races of the Underdark.
Oh wait, if we do an Underdark run, isn't that gonna fuck us up really bad for like every other chapter but one in the game? Because I think you go to the Underdark in chapter 1 and then you're just above the ground for the rest of the playthrough.
Dark. They say it takes a Drow up to 10 years of exposure to sunlight for a Drow's eyes to get used to it. I remember the struggle that Dristo Erden went through when he first emerged onto the surface world. So in Baldur's Gate 3, if Larian follows the player handbook, they might give your Drow disadvantage on attack rolls and on wisdom checks that rely on sight when you or your target is in direct sunlight. It's also definitely possible that Larian will leave this out though. Some of the guaranteed advantages from what we saw on the gameplay reveal are you will gain a +1 to your charisma ability score. You will have dark vision, which will allow your character to see objects and opponents in the dark up to a certain distance, and it probably will be very useful if Baldur's Gate 3 takes us to the Underdark. You will gain Drow weapon training, which allows your character to be proficient in rapiers, short swords,
Crossbows.
and crossbows.
Yeah.
And you will also gain a special cantrip spell called Dancing Lights. At least that's what I'm assuming it is. The Dancing Lights cantrip, when cast, will create up to 4 torch-sized lights.
They changed
making them
this. I think
appear
it's
as
True
torches,
Strike now.
lanterns, or glowing
You get the
orbs
True Strike
that
cantrip.
hover in the air for a duration of your concentration. You may also combine these lights into one glowy humanoid type form. These lights will allow you and your party members to see things better, or they can sometimes be used as a distraction. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. It's a huge help to my videos. I do all sorts
This
of
guy's
gaming
great.
content on
I
this
sub.
channel, ranging from...
I sub. Is there any Baldur's Gate lore specifically we need to watch? 24 hours to go until Baldur's Gate goes live, so before we get too caught up, a quick reminder that this is a thing. Are these all the people that were involved? That's cute. I love that. That's great.
Why don't we just kill her in the street now?
Well, there was all those lawmen there, and you know how they are. With their guns.
Yeah,
And they're
I fucking
shooting.
hate lawmen.
Me as
If I
well.
even meet a lawman, I'm gonna shoot him.
I also hate lawmen.
Yeah.
I like him.
Oh, okay. We got a guide to all
My name is
classes.
Nick Pecheny. I'm lead systems designer. The team of systems designers works on the RPG core rule set. So that means all of the math, all of the roles, all of the bonuses, stats, attributes, etc.
What is your best D&D advice and best Baldur's Gate 3 advice, which they're virtually the same thing in terms of each of the classes? And what's your favorite thing about some of the subclasses included? Let's delve into Barbarian.
All for Barbarian, the advice is very simple. It's don't hold back, right? Rage turn 1, rush into the center of a battle. You're probably going to survive it. It's probably going to be epic. If not, it's still going to be epic, something to tell people about. If you like chaos, we have Wild Magic Barbarian subclass for you. So this is like chaos squared. Barbarians are already really good at just like rushing into the middle of everything and throwing all caution to the wind. And then now, if you're Wild Magic Barbarian, you raging can also trigger these magical surges that will create new opportunities or threats.
Maybe we'll do a Wild Magic Bob for.
This is one example. You create
the vid a bit higher, yeah,
which
man.
is a subclass that you designed specifically.
Maybe
for
we'll
the
do
game.
Wild Magic Bob for our solo run.
Is very much based on a book subclass, but we did some tweaks that made sense for this campaign. We wanted to make sure that Barbarian, who is attaining these beast spirit powers, that they had still flexibility. So we know that the campaign is huge, and maybe you really like wolves, and then 20 hours later you don't like wolves anymore. Now you like monkeys. As a barbarian, it's absolutely normal to change your mind. Nobody expects you to stick with just one wild heart, one beast spirit.
Are you going solo?
So we really wanted
the plan is
players to experiment.
And the Berserker subclass under Barbarian is also
we made a group. Oh, Harper, thank you for the 10 gift subs. Thank you so much, man. We made a group 3.5 years ago for the early access. It was me, Kraken, Loman, and Joe Fudge. And we've kept that group chat, and we wanted to bring that group back. Kraken doesn't have internet. His ISP is down. So we're currently hoping that he gets internet back before the game comes out, but probably not.
a very kind of quintessential barbarian. It's the most barbarian, right?
Yeah. Berserker goes brr. we've seen it. It's a really good class to try to solo the game. I've seen playtesters attempt that. It's incredible to watch. At your own discretion, though. Not advised on your first playthrough, but it's something that I've seen people attempt.
So let's delve into the fighter. This is it's a martial class. It's kind of the expert with weapons.
Well, fighters are surprisingly versatile. So it sounds like, hey, fighter is probably gonna just smack some people, but because the subclasses of fighter have pretty interesting customization. Battle Master has these maneuvers that give them very wide range of options of what to do with enemies. They can goad an enemy and make them attack you. You can fear an enemy. Battle Master has that. Eldritch Knight doubles in spell casting. Champion doesn't have either, but Champion is a really great subclass if you are just new to D&D and you want to just jump into it without too much reading. It's probably the perfect subclass to just click Champion, Fighter, and then click Start Game. And you're going to figure out how everything will go. You're going to crit a lot. You're going to see big numbers on the screen. And then when you're going to be ready for more customization, that's when a lot of the magic items that we put in the game are going to start coming in. And then fighters, because they can wear any armor and they can use any weapon with proficiency, they are the most flexible of the martial classes. You can mix and match any features and passives and interesting magical effects that you can find on different pieces of equipment. With a fighter, that's the easiest thing to just put a bunch of loot in one big box and look at it and go like, okay, what can I build from this? How can I make it more than the sum of its parts?
That brings us to the
what's up, Jay?
I like rogues quite a bit. What is your advice in terms of if you're playing D&D or Baldur's Gate 3? We've got Arcane Trickster, we've got the Assassin, we've got the Thief.
Rogue is kind of a staple in a D&D party. I would say that your party probably needs a rogue or somebody who is going to be very much like rogue. So rogues are great at skill checks, and there's a lot of skill checks. There is quite a bit of crime to be had if you fancy that. There's a lot of stuff to steal, a lot of pockets to pick, a lot of locks to pick, a lot of traps to disarm. It's really handy to have a rogue with some tools on hand.
So Gloomstalker Ranger has sleight of hand specialization. So I think I'm going to do that and just be like a pickpocket, but a ranger.
And rogues are really good at stealth. You can sneak around in Baldur's Gate 3, kind of dodge enemies, side cones, weave in and out of stealth. Even
What's
in
lockpick and
combat.
Tattoo? Sleight of hand and stealth.
To the players is to use hide action in combat. It's going to be a little bit challenging. You'll have to really hide first. And then enemies will still know that, hey, there was somebody who is trying to hide there. I need to go and check out that corner. But with some careful positioning, with some maybe teleportation tricks if you have any, you'll be able to hide in combat and then jump on the enemy again, which is really great for Assassin, which is the new subclass for release. And that's a subclass that is all about jumping on an enemy, having that first attack, surprising the enemy. It's very fun. It's like playing a cat, basically. You're in ambush half the time, and then you jump on people.
Do a whole bunch of damage very quickly. Arcane Trickster is very handy. The Mage Hand, being able to like manipulate items from a distance.
Yes. It took us a lot of surprising amount of work, but we finally are going to allow Mage Hand at release to press buttons, push levers, and do little interactions.
That's
the reason
cool.
why it took us so much work is that a lot of buttons and a lot of levers start dialogues or activate traps or start situations. So we had to basically go through all of them and say like, okay, but what if the person touching the button is not a player, but is actually their mage hand? What happens?
These classes, these subclasses kind of invite things that you need to do within the game to make those satisfying, including, like you just mentioned with Arcane Trickster, being able to like click those levers, be able to maybe pick a pocket from a distance, that kind of thing, interact with the environment. With Bard, you can play songs. Like you suddenly have to realize the...
So Joe was gonna play something else. And then he found out that there's like a whole song system in the game for bards, and now he's like, I have to be a bard. So I think Joe's probably gonna do a bard. Yo, what's up, Joe? Thanks for the reset.
Music, whereas we may not actually sing around the table when we're playing Dungeons and Dragons or play an actual lute. You had to include instruments and lute, and actual songs that can be played, right?
Yes, absolutely. That was another kind of crazy feature that is a minor miracle that it was all created. I'm still really impressed every time it happens. But basically in Baldur's Gate 3, you have multiple musical instruments that you can pick, like flute, violin, lyre. And if you're a bard, or if you're somebody who has the performer feat. So we wanted to make other players be able to do this as well, but bards just do it for free, obviously. They're really good at it. You can play the instrument, and you can pick the song you're trying to play, and what you're going to hear is just going to be just your instrument going through the melody. But then if you have a second bard in your party, or somebody who's good with another musical instrument, you can play together, and you're going to hear both instruments together. If you don't have an instrument handy, which is possible, you're kind of abandoned in the wilderness, your character will actually whistle. So bards can also whistle even without any musical instrument. They can make some music. And if you find a bard character in the world, an NPC, they might actually join you. And there's a very prominent bard character, Alfira, who's very, very popular with our community. And we really wanted to make sure that she can join in your song and make you feel like she cares about your music. That's kind of one of the bardic special things, to connect over something that is not about dealing damage, not about persuading people, but just music.
And what is your advice for playing a bard?
For bard, get into crazy situations by talking. So in Baldur's Gate 3, you can talk your way out of a lot of situations. And at release, we're also making sure that if you talk your way out of a big fight, you will be compensated in experience points, so that you're not
that's really nice.
Just because you're refusing to murder everything.
So you get you still get the XP if you talk your way out of a fight.
Very hard time dodging, or you will, let's say.
Here's the thing though, chat. You don't get the loot. You don't get the magic items. You don't get the gold. All right. So the bard can fucking shut up. I'm talking to you, Joe, and watch us fight.
It's gonna be very morally questionable to dodge them without spoiling anything. But bards are really good at talking their way out.
Wait, yeah, no, we could talk our way out, Joe, get the XP, then kill them and get more XP. I see what you're saying. I agree.
The situations. And the new class of subclass of bard we're gonna add it at release is called the College of Swords bard. So these fellows, they are really good at dancing with their weapons, essentially. So their performance art is, involves a killing instrument. And it was a very interesting challenge for our animation team to take a look at all of the weapons that...
Joe, what are we going to do if Kraken's not ready? What are we going to do? Do we do solo runs? I don't know. I don't know either.
We support, which is a big list, and figure out like, okay, what do we do with a polearm? How do we make it into a dance? How do we make this attack feel fluid like a performance?
And then we've got the lore. We've got Valor. Lore Bard is very much like, you know, you have all those old stories, you have all this old information, and then Valor is kind of like the Skald, like the battle bard that goes into combat and kind of like hypes everyone up.
Yeah, literally. With their combat inspiration, they can make their allies a lot stronger in combat.
So we've got the Warlock, and Warlocks are always fascinating to me, and it's very well captured in Baldur's Gate 3. You know, the different types of spells can be very specific when you look at Eldritch Blast, but you also have a patron, you have a boss, you have someone that you owe something to, and that has role-playing effects as well. We've got the Archfey, we've got the Fiend, we've got the Great Old One. What is some of your advice for playing Warlock, just both from like a mechanical way and also even in the narrative?
A Warlock is a great starter class for somebody who wants to play a caster but doesn't want to have to read their entire spellbook every time they fight. So Warlock really constrains your choices, but gives you a lot of power.
How about G-Mart? He can fill in for a bit. That's not really how it works, and also it wouldn't be fair to Kraken for us to just start playing without him and then have him join after. That's like super shitty. So we'll just figure out, maybe I'll do like a solo run, or maybe me and Joe can do a run until he's around.
They have very few but very hard kicking spells. We try to make sure that those spells feel and sound great. You mentioned Eldritch Blast already. There was a lot of work that was put into making sure that you can cast Eldritch Blast 100 times over your big playthrough, and hopefully it's
god, Eldritch Blast looks so good, dude.
As your first time. For Warlocks, the choice of patron is indeed very important. Something like the Archfey patron that we're adding at release is going to be the archetype of the charming devil. Or charming Archfey, maybe. Somebody who's very good at charming people, dominating people eventually, is really good at the enchantment magic. So that's kind of where their strengths lie. One of our origins is a patron, and you're gonna see their a warlock, and you're gonna see their patron a lot. Whether you will like that patron.
Guys, I don't know how to tell you this, but our entire group has preloaded the game. I'm not queuing with you peasants. Okay, I'll be playing when that timer hits 0.
Or you might fight with them. I don't know, but
when you get back into fitness, Life Bro, I used to watch you when I was using those casts. You inspired me to get big, and I became a PT because of you. Wait, that's fucking awesome, Dib. In honor of you, I'll get back in the gym soon. I'm actually just finishing. I had a bit of an accident skiing. And like tore my collarbone, so I've been in physio for it, but I'm good to go soon. I'll be back in the gym.
Some of my most favorite dialogues are actually this Warlock will interacting with their patron. It's a lot of snark and a lot of humor.
And then you've got the Grey Old One as well. Were there any other interesting things about the mechanics of the Grey Old One or the Fiend?
The Great Old One is really more of an eldritch monstrosity kind of stuff. There is necrotic damage, cold damage, tentacles rising from the ground to grasp your enemies. It's pretty horrorish, actually. Very interesting. And then the Fiend is the third subclass for the Warlock, the third patron. That one is predictably all about the hot fires of hell.
So we got the Cleric, and this is when we get a lot of subclasses, because in D&D there are a lot of subclasses for Cleric. We've got Knowledge, Life, Light. We got Nature, Tempest, Trickery, War. We don't need to get into all these subclasses, but what is some of your advice specific to clerics, and also what's surprising about clerics in D&D?
A really cool thing about clerics that is unique to them in Baldur's Gate 3 is that they can pick a deity that they're following. And whether their deity is evil deity or a good deity is going to be coming up a lot in dialogues. So as a cleric, your dialogue choices are going to be influenced by your...
Here's what is so annoying about Baldur's Gate. It's like they made like a 300-hour game with like infinite pathways. And then they gave you like fucking 12 classes that are all equally as interesting as the other. Meaning that no matter what you do, you get FOMO and you're going to have to just keep playing the game. Play different classes, play different outcomes. This game it cannot be real. This game is not real. I don't understand.
your deity primarily.
I'm overwhelmed and
This
I'm
is
not
kind of
playing
something
yet.
special from their class. It's really satisfying to have a really evil playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3 if you're a cleric of a really evil god. You have a lot of interesting things that you can tell say to people. On the mechanical side, clerics are probably neck and neck with wizards in terms of how varied and how flexible they are as casters. They have a lot of spells that they can do. Of course, they focus on healing and buffing their allies, but they're packing a serious punch as well. So you're not gonna have any issues with damage if your party has a cleric. They have a lot of radiant spells, which is great because you're gonna be seeing a lot of undead who are vulnerable to radiant damage. So you're gonna be really happy you have a cleric on your team. And then in terms of the subclass, clerics can really dabble into anything they want. So there's a really dedicated healer kind of archetype, which is life cleric. There's dedicated I'm gonna smash some people archetype, which is the war cleric. Clerics are really great if you wanna combine a bit of armor, a bit of martial capability with very strong spellcasting side.
That brings us to the druid. The druid is very interesting because they have wild shape, and you cover the different subclasses like moon, land, and then spores, which thematically is very dark and kind of creepy and of the moment. What is your best advice mechanically for playing a druid in Baldur's Gate 3 and D&D? And also, what was most surprising about what came out of these subclasses?
Druid was our first big class that we put out in the patch after the early access launch of Baldur's Gate 3. So we were trying very hard to make a good impression. That means we put a lot of effort into what your wild shapes can do, even in terms of just like sitting on benches and
Make
lying
charisma
down.
your secondary
But also
stat and usurp
making
Joe
sure
as the
that
party
every
member
wild
who
shape has
votes.
interesting actions that they can use. For release, we're also trying to make sure that your wild shape catches up in power with something like a barbarian who is decked out with legendary weapon and like incredible loot that you can find in the game.
They said they like did something because obviously like Circle of the Moon druids fall off quite heavily at like, you know, level 5, 6, 7 in strength compared to all the other classes. So they said they changed it so that druids will get stronger. I think it's like the owlbear and all those ones
so
they had.
We really try to make sure that wild shapes don't drop off in power anymore into the end game, that you can use all of them as much as you want. And that makes the toolkit of the druid kind of very diverse as well. You can turn into a raven, you can fly to another part of the battlefield, you can turn into a bear.
God, that
roar
sounds
at
so
enemies,
cool though.
Make sure that they
Here's how I'm so torn, chat, between Circle of the Moon Druid and Gloomstalker Ranger. Gloomstalker Ranger sounds amazing, but turning into a raven to reposition yourself in battle and stuff sounds so fucking cool.
Attack you and not your teammates, and if stuff is not going according to plan, you turn into a badger and you burrow your way out of your problem. There are some new shapes. I'm really happy that we found time to add the Dilophosaurus because I really wanted a dinosaur in this game. And then for the new subclass that we're adding at release, one look at Spore Druid, and I knew that we're gonna have to pick this one. It's just this wonderfully.
You're playing with Joe and who else? Kraken and Lawman.
To Druid, which is still very much in line with them being centered around
you
nature
are already
and
a
what
bear.
is
It
the natural
fits.
cycle of things. It's kind of a reminder that besides growth, there's also decay in the cycle of nature, and all of it is still natural to a druid, and they can draw power both from growth, but also from very much actively decaying bodies that turn into zombies. As much as it sounds like necromancy, this is completely natural, kids.
No, it's perfect. I love their inclusion in this, and that the video looks fantastic. When it comes to the ranger, what is your advice? You know,
tell me about
mechanically
Gloomstalker.
and narratively in terms of playing Baldur's Gate 3 and D&D. Who is the ranger for?
Oh, ranger is there's a great debate inside me. If I'm gonna play ranger, I don't know if I'm gonna pick Beastmaster because I love their pets. For release, we're also making sure that the pet is growing in power with you, so that they're keeping up with what you can do, and they're also changing visually, and even their name is changing because we realize that the player across these tons of hours that you're going to be playing the game, the player has a lot of opportunities to customize
Who
how
do
they
you
look,
think will betray
what they're
you this
wearing, what paint they put on their equipment, what their weapons are. But the pet kind of always was staying the same. So we really wanted the pet to also change so that you feel that, okay, my overall power is increasing. So that one is just my favorite, just because I like their paths. But the new subclass that we're adding is the Gloomstalker, which is really great if you want to sneak and shoot. And then the first subclass is Hunter, of course. Hunter is also very interesting because something unique to D&D, I think, is that D&D allows rangers, or like this hunter archetype, to stand their ground in both melee and ranged. You can totally make a melee dexterity-based combatant out of a ranger, and hunter is the way to do this. They have features that allow them to both have.
I'll probably do Gloomstalker. I might do
and then
Circle
in
Druid for my solo
range,
run though.
so they can really combine these two hunts.
That brings us to the sorcerer. I'm very excited because I have been playing Wild Magic since 2nd edition, so having that Wild Magic table suddenly included in
I wonder if
Baldur's
there's a
Gate
way
3 and
to
having that Wild
solo
Magic
the
surge
game
happen automatically is so fun. Tell me about the different origins we have for the sorcerers and your advice for playing each of them in the game, and how it kind of influences, like some of these even influence your look while you're playing the game.
Oh yeah, indeed. So the one I think that most players are familiar with is the Wild Magic Sorcerer. It's a sorcerer whose source of power is the chaos of the multiverse. They are going to create these magic surges when they cast, or at will eventually. And the cool thing about that is that it's kind of a third side to any combat. If you see that combat is not going very well, you can always create a magic surge and see, like, here's a new element that came in. Hey, all of the spells will heal anybody that they hit. These kind of random magic surges, they're giving you opportunities and threats that you can turn to your advantage. You can go like, oh, look, now suddenly my sorcerer is the best healer in my party because a surge happened. Suddenly they're healing out everybody. Or, hey, I'm gonna swap with a key enemy target because a surge happened and I can swap with anything on the screen right now. It's a really reactive playstyle, and with a big variety of spells that sorcerers can.
Chat, who did I do the Bone Boys with in Divinity 2? That was a fucking nightmare. Was it Kraken? Yeah. Oh my god, dude. It was fucked. I had this idea. Was it? It might have been Tomato, Kraken, and Lawman. I had this idea that we would play Undead, but in Divinity 2, Undead could like wear a mask. They could wear skin, and so like people would just like think they were whatever. You'd be fine in towns. My idea was, what if we never wear them? So we had a group of undead that never wore the masks. And every time we tried to go into a town, it was a fucking shit show. Like, everyone went screaming. Like, traders wouldn't interact with us. The only way we could talk to them is to sneak up behind them and then start trading before they saw our face. It was a fucking... Yeah, or you'd put a bucket over your head. It was a nightmare, dude. It was a nightmare. It was hilarious. I want to do something like that again as, like, an alternate run.
Can have, which covers... Like, it's a big overlap with Wizards. It covers a lot of spells.
We had to annihilate all of Fort Joy because someone spotted us.
Combos, honestly.
And they can manipulate the spells as well, right? You can, like,
yes.
With the meta magic.
I have to say, I'm glad Strippin is staying in the just chatting category, not milking the drop title and BG3 category like all the other streamers that are just sitting there watching videos. Oh, yeah, no.
With the meta magic.
When I start playing the game, I'll change the directory.
So they can duplicate a spell, or they can increase its range, or they can increase its duration, or they can make a spell subtle, so not attract any attention. Which is really powerful if you have a knock spell available somewhere. That was Wild Magic. We also have Draconic Bloodline Sorcerer, which is proudly presenting their Draconic Ancestor with scales that you can see and you can customize.
Looks so cool.
Creation. If you're a Dragonborn Draconic Bloodline Sorcerer, you have access to this like completely unique dual tone Dragonborn skin that was just made specifically for this combination because we wanted to make sure that we cover it with something unique. And then they're gonna kind of tap into this Draconic ancestry and get powers from their ancestral dragons that depend on the color or...
Have you seen the narrator outtake videos? No, but I feel like that might be spoilery.
Bloodline. So let's say if your grandpa was a red dragon, you might have fire-related powers and resistances. And the new sorcerer class is
They're not. They're
Storm
really
Sorcerer.
funny. If someone's got a link, I'll
if
check
you
it
know
out for sure.
X-Men, there is Storm in X-Men. That's Storm Sorcerer for sure. The really neat thing that they can do, and they can do this from level 1, is they can fly right after casting a spell. So if you see a chest somewhere on a cliff that you can't normally jump to, or you spotted a ledge that you can jump to and maybe there's a hidden door there, Storm Sorcery is really great in that. In like this exploration aspect, this like short little fly that you can do opens a lot of doors.
So that brings us to the monk. We've got a variety of subclasses. We have open hand, we've got shadow, we've got 4 elements. What is your advice for D&D players and Baldur's Gate 3 players? Who is the monk most geared towards? How to have fun with that mechanically and even narratively?
Monk is great if you want to be running around the battlefield, if you want to be striking where nobody is expecting you. Also, if you want to be able to really calm down a situation. So the interesting thing with monks, any class has special dialogue options when they're conversing with other NPCs. And for monk, the dialogue options really center on the concept of Zen, the concept of meditation. Monks are great at disarming the hostile NPCs with just a few words, at like lowering the temperature of hostility in the room. So that's when you really need a monk. And mechanically, monks are, of course, mostly about their unarmed attacks. They're masters of their own body. You're going to look great as you're unarmed attacking. Our animation team has been working with martial artists to mock up actual Kung Fu stances and moves. You might actually recognize some of them from popular movies that you've seen if you're into Kung Fu movies. Open Hand Monk is the subclass that is most focused on just the variety of different attacks that you can do without any weapons. You can stun people, you can tap into the key energy in their bodies to explode them later.
Do they have the lone wolf feat in this game, chat, or no? Like if me and Joe wanted to play as like only a group of 2 with no extra party members, is that doable? Does it just make the game way harder?
And to make sure that they can also go head to head with that proverbial barbarian with a really big
makes
axe.
it harder. Doable
we
though,
make
I reckon.
Sure that monks will find magic equipment that is going to synergize well with their unarmed attacks, and also with dashing, with jumping, with doing things that feel monk-like. So there's going to be magic gloves that are going to empower you on unarmed attacks to make sure that you're still up there in utility in a fight.
I haven't even. I think he's asleep. I haven't even
Shadow, because
seen or heard
these
from
are
him.
very, very, very tricky. Very good at just bamfing around combat.
Way of Shadow is basically a ninja. It's a ninja on steroids. The really cool thing they can do, they can teleport from shadow to shadow, which is pretty unique and pretty powerful because you know, in a city there's shadows everywhere, next to every building.
Wait, who can do this?
Which is pretty unique utility in a fight.
Yeah, tell me about the Way of Shadow, because these are very, very, very tricky. Very good at just bamfing around combat.
Way of Shadow is basically a ninja. It's a ninja.
Wait, that sounds so cool.
The really cool thing they can do, they can teleport from shadow to shadow, which is pretty unique and pretty powerful because you know, in a city there's shadows everywhere. Next to every building, next to every lamppost, there's a bit of shadow. So as a shadow monk, you can just jump from one place to another. Let's say if you need to stage a heist into a bank, that place is going to be full of shadows.
Yeah.
So take it as you will. And then final subclass is the
Ooh, dude, chat, imagine if I did Gloomstalker and then I multi-classed into Shadow Monk. God, that would be a fun build. I might do that. I might actually do that.
Monk.
Yeah, Ghost. I was thinking the same thing, Ghost.
The Avatar animated series. You're going to be very familiar. Like, that's the mental picture of how 4 Elements Monk work. They create this Hadouken spells.
Multi into Assassin is wild. Yeah, but like, isn't that Here's my worry about multing into assassin is I think a lot of fights you don't get the upper hand on, right? And if you did assassin Gloomstalker, it would literally be like that first turn is like giga strong, and then you have nothing. Then you have nothing. That like surprise attack would be like double crit, fat sneak attack, huge damage, and then you're out. You're out for the fight.
Harnessing elemental powers. We also tweaked the key economy a little bit at higher levels to make sure that you never run out of juice as a monk. As long as you're resting properly, as long as you're not pushing too many fights without resting, you should have access to most of your...
Says the person playing a fighter assassin right now. Yeah, but I'm in a short form campaign. I'm doing a fighter assassin, and we haven't had that much combat because the DM is like, yeah, you kill them. Yeah, you kill them. Yeah, you kill them. But I think
in most of the situations.
That brings us to Paladin. This is a much beloved class and subclasses that's in D&D and Baldur's Gate 3. We've got the Ancients, we've got Devotion, we've got Vengeance, and
I'm really interested in Paladin because I think you can be an evil Paladin, right?
Subclass. Tell me all about, like, what's your advice for playing a Paladin? What's exciting about all these subclasses and what you've done narratively?
So Paladin is all about their oath, the oath that they swear. The Oath of Devotion is going to be the oath to protect the innocent, and well, there's going to be a lot of innocence. Let's put it this way. It's the quintessential knight in shining armor. It's the person who wants to hug their entire group and cover them in aura and probably will heal them at it. The Vengeance Paladin is the new subclass that we're putting into the release. That one is hellbent on vengeance. They're pretty angry. And actually, very interestingly, as a paladin, you can break your oath. You need to be very careful about what you say and what you do, because your oath...
This is so interesting to me, like breaking your oath and then like playing the rest of the game as an oath breaker.
Is very much for real. We are keeping track of things. And for Vengeance Paladin, the way to break your oath is to let the evil go unpunished. So in a lot of situations, it might feel like, hey, I'm just not gonna, say anything in the situation. It might be dangerous for me to speak out right now. But for a paladin, that's gonna be breaking their oath. They're out there to make sure that there is restorative justice that's gonna happen. And finally, there's Ancients. The Oath of Ancients is all about protecting nature. Paladins of that oath are a little closer to druids, and they understand nature and understand the desire to protect it from meddling, from pollution very strongly, which is great because we have a huge storyline about druids in Act 1, and then a huge storyline about nature being cursed and destroyed and polluted in Act 2. So there's a lot of kind of juicy narrative content to get into as an Oath of Ancients Paladin. If your oath gets
God, I want to try everything. I'm
you
so
will
annoyed.
become the Oathbreaker Paladin.
Why did they make it so hard
the most
to pick?
Subversive of all of these, of all four of these. It's gonna be probably the preferred choice for somebody who wants to really lean into an evil playthrough. And an interesting thing about Oathbreaker is that we also have a feature that allows you to reset your character and restart their class, because we wanted you to continue your playthrough no matter what. We know that there's a lot of big choices that you need to make at early levels in D&D. And we know that a lot of players will kind of jump in blindly and just try things out. And so if things don't work out, there's a very powerful being that is going to help you to reset your class and reallocate all of the levels. But then we realized, like, hey, are we just gonna allow players to like respec out of being an Oathbreaker? Which, of course, we can't possibly do. So you have to atone for your sins before you can respec. That's the only subclass that cannot just go and change their mind.
Wait, that's so cool.
Restart.
You can't just respec if you break your oath. You have to actually atone.
To do some work towards that.
Last but not least, we have the Wizard. We've got a lot of subclasses here. We've got Abjuration, Conjuration, Divination, Enchantment, Evocation, Necromancy, Illusion, and Transmutation. So we don't have to go into every single subclass, but tell me,
oh my
what
God, why are they got so many?
What's your advice for playing Wizard in Baldur's Gate 3 and D&D?
Wizards have access to most of the spells in the game, except the tiny exception of Bard, who can just steal spells, but doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But anyway, on paper, wizards are the most versatile of casters. You'll probably have the biggest hotbar full of spells. You will be able to
subclass based on
pick up
useful
scrolls
magic.
in
Yeah,
loot
but
and
like
buy them from vendors and learn them.
I can use the Twitch integration. Yes, so I have the Twitch extension that will show you guys my our characters, our gear, what like quests we're on. It's super cool. And then I'm also gonna have the Twitch drops.
Memorize them and be able to cast these spells forever. Since wizards are so in tune with magic, with how magic works, their subclasses are actually each corresponds to a school of magic. My favorite one, and one that I enjoy the most, is divination, which was quite challenging to create technically for us. But the way we are adapting divination is that when you rest, you have a bit of a omen, a premonition, which allows you to roll 2d20s and save the results for later. And maybe one of those d20s is going to be a high roll, maybe one of them is going to be a low roll. You will be able to replace rolls going forward with these dice. So you, if you're in a tight situation in combat and you really need a crit, but hey, you predicted that somebody is going to roll a d20, you're going to put that portent d20 dice and say like, now I'm going to crit. I foresaw this. I had a dream about this. Or if you really need an enemy to miss you, you can always go like, hey, you just rolled a 2 because I foresaw this when I was sleeping last time.
Divination is probably one of my favorite wizards as well. I'm very in evocation. I have to bring up just because my wife Megan loves evocation wizards and just blasting enemies to cinders. It's definitely the most blasty of all the wizards, the most glass cannon. How do you handle illusion magic and illusionists and necromancy as wizards?
Necromancy is fun because we wanted the player to have a little necromantic army. That's kind of the stereotype, is having a lot of buddies that are less than fully alive. So the necromancy wizard will be able to raise additional undead, and their undead are going to be a bit beefier as well.
Did you remember to update your
paired
drivers?
With some high-level necromancy spells will allow you to have quite a few necromantic minions, and also different kinds of mummies, wolves, zombies. There's also some very rare magic tomes that are going to allow you to summon even more undead characters in the city. So check it out. Try to make the zombie apocalypse happen.
I should work with that restart. It'll crash OBS.
I've seen some stuff. Let's put it this way.
And for like illusion magic, like how does that work in Baldur's Gate 3?
The illusions are tough, and we leaned into our crime system with illusions. The illusion is something that you can use to distract guards. Illusion magic is really great if you're not trying to get into trouble right now. If you're trying to sneak around, maybe you're going to be a sneaky wizard. So this is great when you can create minor illusions faster than any other class, and kind of manipulate guard behavior, manipulate NPCs. In a city, it's really useful to be able to tell, to make a big crowd look away.
We'll watch this one after check my drivers. Here we go. I think I might be good, man. I might be up to date. Oh! It's fine. I don't need this one. Well, I don't need this one. It's fine, right? I'm like... Hello, did I just break my stream? Hello? What the fuck happened? What the fuck just happened? What just happened? I didn't even click anything. My whole stream just fucking, all my monitors switched off. Am I getting trolled? It's the drivers, Matt. Look, I updated my drivers last month. Is that last month? 2 months ago. These aren't even like, these are, it's fine. Download it now? I don't need to. I already ran the game and tested it and it was great. Spoilers. Just update. But it'll take the stream down. I have so many viewers right now. Don't make me do this. Just in case. I'm gonna be honest, new drivers have a higher chance of causing issues than solving them. Exactly. I'm on the stable driver right now. I'm on the stable driver. Okay, you guys want me to go to the unstable one. I'm not updating. It's fine. Okay, let's watch the character creation video.
One of the most exciting aspects about Baldur's Gate 3 right now is character creation and the emotional attachment that you have to your character, and you are a big part of that. Tell me what you do.
I'm a lead character artist here at Laren. Me and my team work on everything starting from playable races to NPCs
the character creator
to
looks so
creatures
good.
and armors. So kind of everything that you see on the screen that's like animating, talking, we're making sure it's looking great. In terms of character creation, we kind of build up a tool set to populate the game because, as you know, the game is really big. You can actually meet more than like thousands of characters, like different NPCs. And we actually expect thousands of people to be able to customize their own story, their own adventure, and their own personal look. So we made up a bunch of tools that help us do it.
Oh my
so you
God.
could kind of like create yourself from scratch. You can make your character look like you with our tools, or like kind of pursue the ultimate fantasy and try to, you know, customize your adventure to your liking.
Okay, so everyone's super hyped. The game is about to come out. What's your day one advice for making your character? You know, it's August 3rd, thousands, millions of characters getting generated all in one day. What is your day one advice for making your character?
So first and foremost, take your time. It's gonna take you a while. Allow, well, at least an hour, you know, maybe.
It's not gonna take an hour to make a
all of the
character, dude.
options, to try a couple of different races, try a couple of.
Are you gonna play a Viking
you
man or
know,
a hot girl?
different
Well, I'm gonna play a
customization
drow and they
options.
can't grow
What is
beards,
the
so
most
I'll probably be a
exciting
hot girl.
aspect of this launch for yourself?
I think the most exciting is indeed to see people create their own characters and kind of to get excited whenever they see an option that they really liked or they would prefer to have on the character. When we launch, you know, like when we launched early access, I was like in every video stream on Twitch, like even with like minimum amount of people, I was like there trying to like get to know what people want, get to know what people use. Yeah, it's really rewarding to see kind of people tinkering with our things, but also actually playing the game and meeting characters in the world and then talking to them and then kind of reacting to what they see, like to the stories that, you know, they create. Yeah, that's really amazing. I'm very hyped. Can't wait.
That's the exciting thing is I think we're just going to see all of these different characters that were made in the game being shared online. And I'm excited what everyone gets to see. I suspect that you will be lurking, right?
Yeah, I hope to see some interesting, you know, picks that everyone would customize. Like we have, actually we keep a statistics like of what the best, like the most popular player choice. And we're definitely gonna post like the most, you know, the default of the default characters that people is gonna pick in our Twitter. But like looking at the statistics throughout early access, it's been very interesting because like throughout our patches, like player preferences actually changed.
Okay.
So the first most default character was like this white guy, you know, very handsome, like very classic hairstyle, all of that. But when we released Bard patch, then like previously it was a human, obviously, but then with the Bard patch, it was half elf, and then he kind of had a bit of a more fancier hairstyle, like this drow hairstyle. That's very, very curious to see, you know.
That is interesting. Like I can't wait to see the data on all of that actually, like as that progresses, you know, as there are different options. What's the single most important thing that you found in your career in capturing when it comes to creating your own character?
The most important aspect of making a character and bringing the character to life is actually the eyes. You look, you interact with people.
The eyes
on
look so
day-to-day
realistic in the
basis,
character.
and you can spot when something is off. And if the eyes don't have this like small glare in them, then the character that you look at kind of can seem dead. What we tried to make sure is that you always have this glow in the eye in all of the lighting situations. We kind of had to fake it a little bit, but we could make sure that, you know, you like wherever, whenever you look at somebody, there is this like glow a little bit, and then you instantly get attached. And then when you look at them and then they start animate, start talking to you, then like you kind of believe them, you believe in them, that they exist. This is definitely one of the hardest and like you know, the main thing that we had to deal with. Well, there is a lot more, of course.
What's maybe something that people don't know about the process, or like your insights into like character creation or NPC creation? Is there anything like a weird story about like character creation that you have?
Well, I mean, with characters, it's like a lot need to come together, and we actually work with a lot of departments, different departments that make it happen. We're sort of the first ones.
Lawman's gonna play a divination wizard,
sculpt
chat.
the face, we like
I think.
kind of model the body and the hair and the outfits, like all of that. But it's also very important to coordinate with graphic programmers and with animation department and with lighting. After all, I think there were a lot of back and forth with the lighting and like how the atmospheres work in game. For us, it was really hard to pull off like this very saturated and contrasted atmosphere, both from top down and then in the cinematic camera. So whenever you're like looking at something from top down camera, it kind of like realistically it looks quite desaturated. So like if you, I don't know, kind of gonna go up you know, top floor of your building, look down, you might spot that the lighting is kind of flat. So we need to compensate for that in our game. So we need to make it a little bit more exciting, you know, the grass needs to be a little bit greener, the shadows needs to be a bit darker and all of that. But with the same atmosphere settings, when you zoom in on the face, it kind of looks like too much. So we had to figure out a way where we would have like slightly different atmosphere settings, like from the top down and then from the cinematic dialog camera.
Oh, interesting. Why do you love doing this? Because it's so much work and so much has gone into this game, and now it's finally launching. You have to love it. You have to be passionate about it. Why do you enjoy this so much?
I mean, it's really exciting to bring something.
Chat, we've made a rule as a group where no saves coming for rolls. We have to roll with the punches. So the only time we're gonna do saves coming is if we fuck up combat. So any like rolls we make, we're not gonna scum. Like it's a one and done thing.
To life, and in my case literally someone to life, you know. And you can see the process. Like if you look back at what we had like at the beginning of our early access, and I personally look back even before that, you know, at our first like proof of concept shots, it was much more similar to DOS 2 kind of quality, and then we try to push it and push it. And
by save some in combat, I mean if we all die in combat, we have to load the game. That's what I'm referring to.
We try to really like embrace and achieve like this next generation kind of realistic, really flavorful look of the characters. And the process and like the kind of the destination was really fun. We had lots of ups and downs, you know. We had lots of things that like were breaking constantly, you know. We had to fix it, we had to like make more stuff, make new things, but at the end, when you kind of look back at the journey and then you look back at the results, you look at all of the characters that we've made, it's so rewarding. It's like, yeah, I can't even tell you how happy I am, to see the characters online and to see people like being excited about, playing with them and like romancing them and, creating their own little stories with the characters that we have.
Were there any unique challenges into creating all these different creatures and also kind of delving into the
Well, if only one of you die,
Dungeons and Dragons?
I think we have a
and all
cleric.
the different,
I think
like,
Kraken's
species
playing a
that
cleric,
exist and all
so
the different monsters.
not worried about that.
What was interesting about that challenge?
Yeah, so I mean, first thing that we did, we kind of like got all of the books at the Ra and actually a few copies, and then we went through all of them. We were like reading up on creatures. Every time that we needed to make a creature or monster, we would check like, okay, how many tentacles does Beholder have? How many tentacles does Spectator has? Yeah, there were a lot of research that we put in to make sure that we are staying true to the lore, and at the same time we were looking at like the visual and trying to bring it to the next level. We kind of got inspired by like everything that D&D has to offer, and then we kind of like turned it into what you're gonna see in the game, so like, yeah, very exciting monsters. We created some of the monsters that didn't previously like exist in the books, so maybe they're gonna make it there, hopefully.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, there are armor sets, there are clothes. Like, sometimes you see references in D&D art, but you've added so much more based off of that initial art direction. What do you enjoy about creating those armor sets?
For the clothing and armors, we tried to show the class of the characters through the armor a little bit. At the same time, we tried to kind of fit those outfits on all of the races and also represent your racial identity with it. So we had our armors. We have now vanity clothing as well that you can wear. Both are intertwined, and like you can be whoever you want to be, and be a halfling, a gnome, a dragonborn, and then like you can play as a bard, overthird, or sorcerer, and then in the game would kind of like give you like you would find loot and vanity items in the game that can further kind of like embrace this role-playing element and like really show your character.
So much what you do is about like attachment. Like, you are making the NPCs feel real, to have an emotional connection. What has been important about and fun about creating these NPCs and making them characters that you care about? And then also the monsters on top of that. Like, they're, sometimes they have to be monstrous, but you have to add a human element as well. We talked previously, and you mentioned lips are very important if the monster does have lips. So what goes into creating those NPCs, those monsters?
Yeah, we paid special attention to our animations and specifically lip sync. Because in the game you can talk to anyone and any creature as well. So you can talk to squirrels, you can talk to cats, dogs. So one of the things that we had to deal with is how do we have animations, like how do we lip sync the creatures that don't have lips necessarily, like dragonborns actually, because dragonborns are dragon lizards. So it was really hard not to just make the open and clothing mouse animation like kind of like a doll. So we had to kind of like force a little bit of a lip animations in there, and we tried to kind of put in as much emotions as possible. So usually it's lips and eyebrows, even if those creatures in real life, they don't necessarily gonna like have expressions with their lips and eyebrows. But yeah, we tried to put it in because actually then you can feel like if they're like happy, if they're smiling, if they're angry. So it needs to show like without actually like understanding what they're saying.
Do you have thoughts? I know this is a bigger question, but like the attachment of choice, because you are the very beginning of making choices in the game. What is it about choice that makes us so connected? I guess we're just defining and honing. Like, what you do is, to me, very much inviting the player to have input into the experience. And then there's dialogue after that. Then there's choices of where you go. But you're the very beginning of this.
Well, what we try to do is kind of sit back and check if we kind of give or can give the option to more people, to anyone really, because a lot of times when you're making something, you kind of can find yourself creating it for yourself, like making what you like, kind of projecting your personal tastes on your work. But as a lead, I kind of try to step away from it a little bit and really ask for opinion, ask for opinion within my team and outside of my team, and listen to what people have to say. Because a lot of times you just might not necessarily think about something. We have a couple of channels with like where people can share feedback and requests sometimes. And sometimes I see some people saying like, oh, hey, like it would be cool if we had that, or like if this character was looking like this. And we pay attention to that because a lot of times it's just, actually, it's a really good idea. Nobody had thought about it, nobody kind of paid enough attention to like spot it in the NPC that like that's actually like their character, that's their story, and we do that a lot. So a lot of times we're like, okay, this option is kind of funny. It might not be like, the most pretty or the most, I don't know, beautiful option out there. But there's going to be somebody that would really like it. And we're like, okay, if we see that in our options in character creation, we just like add it in.
Is there anything within the game that happens without spoiling anything that can also affect how your character looks like other than armor types? I know at the character creation stage, if you choose a draconic bloodline, the scales will be influenced on your character, and even if you're a dragonborn, there will be a melding of different scales on top of that. Can we expect any alterations afterwards?
Yeah, there's going to be some instances, some small quests that could affect how your character looks. Sometimes it is temporary. So like, your like character can get affected temporarily, and sometimes permanently. So there are certain things that you can screw up in the dialogue, and then you're gonna have a permanent altered look of your character. It's not gonna be like, game breaking,
right?
I hope, but you can always save load.
But that's exciting to see that your character is influenced by that world as you progress. Okay, but this is my final question. Is there one thing you are the most proud of that you just absolutely nailed, or something that was just something you were chasing and trying to get right? And right before launch, congratulations, by the way. This has to be an immense feeling. Or maybe you're just relieved. You're finally shipping it.
I mean, there are a lot of things that that did exactly that. Like, it's origin characters. We had like a lot of back and forth, a lot of work put into them. Dragonborn race. Oh god, that's like, yeah, the most technically complicated race that we ever made. Very proud of it. Yeah, I think we did a good job, and like animation and technical art, like everything. And maybe the last and final thing is the genitals. We spent so much time trying to hide them. Would you believe that they always like popped up in the most weird places, shall I say? Yeah.
Perfect.
So that would be my top 3.
That is the perfect note to end on. Congratulations so much on the launch of the game. I cannot wait to see how everyone reacts.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hi chat. bow to chair, for I am all powerful. High chair. You look extra cute today, chat. Strippin is very stinky. Oh boy, I sure can't wait to start downloading this game in 30 minutes and then play tomorrow. Baldur's Gate. Chat Rolodex save. Sorry to tell you this, Sam, but Electro Ball is also Math Ball. To get max value you need to math out your speed compared to the enemy Pokemon speed. But if you use it against a very slow Pokemon you have a 150 power ball. Baldur's Gate. Did she say genitals? Where do I get this game? Baldurs. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down. I have accumulated many singles and feel like spending some. I attack the gazebo. Rock and stone. I Baldur's Gate Tushy. I said a hip hop, the hippie to the hip hop, and you don't stop the rockin' to the bang bang boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie, the beat. I cast magic missile at the darkness. She Baldur on my gate till I mind flay her.
Chat, I'm sorry, let me put something on for you guys to watch. They're trying to like get my line working, my business line at my other house. And it's like there's an engineer at my house, and I'm like, this is the worst day you could have done this.
That's exactly what this has been.
One of the most alarming things to me about Baldur's Gate 3, and for a lot of D&D players, this is going to come up, is how completely accurate it is.
He's the
to
known
5th edition.
gamer.
It's almost one-to-one in terms of your action economy, how you handle combat, how you handle spells.
Let us all make a
character
pause of
creation,
silence for
the
Crichton's
different
internet.
stats that you use, the different subclasses.
SHSHSHSH.
It's all so specific to D&D. Why was there such an obsession with detail for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons? Like, why is it so accurate?
It has been a huge challenge for us to hit that level of parity between the tabletop version and our own version. It took us years, literal years, to get there. But it was something that we wanted to do from the very start. One of the big reasons is that D&D is immensely popular, especially now. It's getting more and more popular every year. And we wanted players that are going to come in to feel comfortable and to also feel like they already know what the spells are about. They already know what the classes are about. They already know things about action economy. Maybe they have a friend who's playing D&D, or maybe they played D&D once in like one-shot campaign. There's so many people, I think, that have tried D&D, have seen D&D, have watched somebody play D&D. Maybe you're not playing D&D yourself, but maybe you're watching Critical Role, and then you already know all the classes, all the spells. You probably know some cool combos as well. We wanted to tap into that huge pool of knowledge, and for that we realized very early that we have to go into a lot of detail. So to give you an example of the kind of detail I'm talking about, when we were working on Paladin on one of our later patches, there is a very popular kind of quirk in the rules that allows Paladin to only add a lot of damage when they crit. And the feature that they use, I think Divine Smite, is worded in a very specific way that allows for that little quirk, and the community has built their entire builds around that specific interaction. And so we had to make sure that we read up on what community expects from us, and then specifically emulate that specific behavior in our game. In fact, we added a special button that whose job is just to make sure that when you crit, it's gigantic crit of radiant damage that your paladin is going to put in, because we know that players are going to be looking for that.
You play D&D yourself. What's interesting is I could easily recommend this game to someone who is, like you mentioned, curious about D&D, but they've never played it. Maybe they saw the D&D movie, maybe they watched a variety of live play shows. But I feel like someone could learn D&D by playing Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And it could be, I hope, it could be a pretty smooth experience, actually. We put a lot of effort into introducing D&D content and ideas, concepts in a very step-by-step manner. If you've been following what we've been showing so far about the release, you probably know that we've redone character creation just to make it very much step-by-step, walk you through what are the core concepts, what are the core choices you have about your character, and also what things matter. There are spells, there are cantrips. What's a cantrip? Things like that. It goes through how we structured the tutorial level into how we've rewrote again all of the tooltips in the game. I think the kind of tooltips, a little text describing what a spell does for the early level spells were rewritten upwards of 6-7 times, re-edited with new ideas of how we can specify how we can keep some of the flavor, but also remain very to the point. How we need to highlight terms and let you kind of mouse over them and get like a little Wikipedia little entry about what this term means.
That's the level of like that surprised, but like, okay, you're talking about things like advantage, you are having bonus actions, all of that stuff. It's just kind of delightful to see like that level of similarity. I don't know if I've seen a tabletop game get kind of like mimicked so accurately. It's interesting. What for you did you feel was like the quintessential D&D experience? Like, what was the most important thing to capture in terms of the feel of this game?
That's a huge question. For us, the experience of the player is this kind of multifaceted thing. We know from talking to playtesters, from seeing how they play through the game, that each of their playthroughs is going to be completely unique. And to me, the quintessential part of it is going to be that little thing that only you and 0.01% of players will do or will see in this game. I was playtesting yesterday, and for the first time ever in 5 years, I realized that I can talk to certain characters. I've only ever treated them as enemies. I vaguely knew that there is some situation around them, but I've never had a conversation with them. And that conversation was one of the best moments that I had in a while, just because it was so spontaneous. And in that moment, you feel like this whole game is built just for you. That's a feeling that I'm really chasing. That's why our character creation is so robust. That's why we try to put in as many choices and subclasses and races from the books as we could physically fit in the timetable. Because the moment you create your own character that is probably unique, like with relatively good chance that your character that you're going to create is probably going to be unique enough, and you're going to go through the game, it's probably going to be unique enough path. You will get that moment when you will realize, like, you know what, I probably just saw something that almost nobody ever saw or will see. So I should probably show it on YouTube or something.
Was there anything that was like a...
Chat, when the stream froze, it caused a delay in the chat. So what I'll probably do is I'll restart the stream like right before launch, and that way the Baldur's Gate VOD is separate.
Unique challenge.
So many.
Yeah.
Yes.
Am I good? Yeah, I'm good. I'm trying to like
we thought at first
sort my
that
internet
this is gonna be a
getting
much
fitted
more
at the other
straightforward,
house.
Development cycle for system design, honestly. So the thinking went, here's a book, all of the design
On
is
Baldur's Gate
pre-made
launch
for
day.
us. Yay. So we probably don't have a lot to do. Maybe we're going to be consulting programmers, kind of like specifying which page the ruling is on. But that did not turn out to be remotely true. Turns out that the books are written for people, and people like to interpret things. The books are written in human language. And when you start to try to explain this to a machine, you need to do a lot of choices about little things here and there, little choices about what's feasible and what's not feasible to even represent in a computer game. It turns out that those 600 spells and actions that we were planning are gonna take a lot of work, each and every single one. And this is a really cool thing about D&D. Every spell, every action has some twist to it. This is what I really love. You think like, oh, shocking grasp, that's going to be something very simple. It's going to be like a melee range. I'm going to grab somebody and deal some lightning damage. But hey, it also blocks reactions. And now we need to figure out, how do we block reactions? How do we make sure that AI knows that their reactions are blocked and kind of thinks, hey, I can block players' reactions.
Thank you, Stella, for
with
the
my
40
shocking
months.
grasp? How do we tell this to UI? How do we give feedback to the player? Like, because they will be confused. Why did my reaction not trigger? What happened? All of these things suddenly cascade out of like a very simple twist in one of the earlier spells, and it gets worse and better from there as we go into higher and higher levels. So there was a lot of really interesting work, a lot of help from the community, pointing out what they expect from spells and features, pointing out how they usually play at the table. It was really great to just jump in a lot of D&D fan forums and look into like, hey, how do people use sneak attack? What kind of advantages
Thank you,
do they
Alex
look
and Silent
for
Hunter, for the
to
resubs.
use
Appreciate it.
with? And that was especially also useful when we started working on equipment and loot, because we were looking for like, hey, what is there that we can offer to a class that isn't already covered by what the class has? What is interesting to a monk? Like, what kind of what kind of helmet is interesting for a monk to find? Things like that.
There are a lot of aspects that you can cover in a video game that you don't necessarily realize when you're playing tabletop Dungeons and Dragons. You have the opportunity to like give Eldritch Blast a really cool sound effect and a really cool visual look. Same thing with iconic spells like Fireball, Lightning Bolt, all kinds of different things. Do you have a series of spells that you just really enjoyed creating?
It's impressive to see my colleagues from animation and effects and code department and scripting department work on these spells. Some of my favorites are there's the irresistible dance spell that actually makes NPCs dance, and it was really cool to see like a bunch of people in the city just starting to dance, which sounds easy when you describe it, but then you realize just how much work it is to teach everything to dance. How much work it is to make sure that every creature that is susceptible to sleep spell is gonna drop down in a nice animation with like really fun effects. How much thinking went into something like silence spell. So silence spell needs to muffle sounds. It's like real challenge actually for a lot of teams to make sure that this happens. D&D plays a lot with everything, really. Sound, visuals. It has very juicy spells. Good berry creates a nice juicy berry that you eat afterwards, right? Like there's so many summon spells that we had to work with, and then we had to go like, hey, we need something cool for the summon to do as well.
Thanks
and
for making
what
these
about,
last few hours go by
summon
faster,
following
Strip
you?
Love.
Yeah, no
Summon will
worries,
probably
man.
need to climb ladders and be able to open doors and do all of the things that the kind of immersive side of our game allows it to do. So yeah, indeed, every single spell presented some challenge, and then when it comes together and you see like, oh hey, I can break a lot of situations with just knock spell, but then the guards are gonna rush me because they hear knock in the distance. They treat it as a crime that somebody's casting something very loud outside. When this comes together in an immersive situation, it's really cool.
What was the favorite thing about the design process when it came to Baldur's Gate 3? What has you most excited for the launch?
I'm very excited to turn on as many streams and YouTube videos as I can as soon as the embargo lifts, and I want to see what people are going to come up with. The fun part about making a game like this, very systems driven, very big RPG, is that we probably don't know half of what's possible. Literally today, I saw somebody defeat like 40 rats with one spell in one turn in the most spectacular firework display I've seen in a while. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. What the players are going to come up with. How are they going to combine Battlemancy with spells, with magic items?
I've got a spare
with
deluxe
features,
edition kit I'd like to give
with
away.
all of the crazy things that you can get in situations.
You should hold on to it, my guy.
Don't want to spoil much, but you're gonna
hold on to
go through some transformation.
Give it to someone you want to play co-op with or something.
If you want that. I'm really excited to see what players are gonna come up with and how they're gonna break Baldurs.
Oh yeah, if you guys don't know, if you have save games on the early access,
Stick at work don't finish till release time, but got the stream on listen only.
So they didn't explain this, but this happened to Lawman. Okay, if you have early access saves and you delete the game and keep the saves, when you install the real game, it will crash. You need to like get rid of the save files. Like you have to go into Steam and like find where the saves are and get rid of them. Because Lawman deleted early access, didn't get rid of his save files, and then when he tried to play the full build, it just hard crashed his game on loop. So yeah, they've explained it twice. Yeah, I'm just telling you guys.
What is your advice for D&D players who are looking to play Baldur's Gate 3, and what's your advice for Baldur's Gate 3 players who are looking to play D&D after they finish this game?
For a D&D player, I really advise to take their favorite character and to try to capture their essence in Baldur's Gate 3. It's a specific campaign and it has some homebrew rules, but you will find a lot of the things are very familiar. You will find a lot of things translated verbatim, but then you're going to find a lot of new opportunities. As any campaign gives new opportunities, you're going to see new magic items that might lead you to build your character differently. You're going to find situations and entire areas where your character is going to shine. So try to approach it as an invitation to kind of reinvent your character, to fall in love with them again, honestly. And then if you're gonna try to play some D&D after playing Baldur's Gate 3, well, I'm gonna advise you to try classes that might be intimidating in tabletop in Baldur's Gate 3, because in the game, the UI, I think, does a great job in introducing classes and concepts and resources and a lot of terminology in a kind of really friendly way that moves you like step by step, explains a lot of things.
D&D's been coming very mainstream, but this game will probably go a long way to making
like,
it even more so.
I thought this class is not really for me, but after playing it in BG3, I figured out what I could be doing with it, and now I'm using it in my campaign. Just because
Kosak is bad to delete them from inside the game, so Steam is trying to re-upload them from the cloud.
The things that are available to you. Like when I'm at the table, I constantly forget that I had a magic item or I had a feature that I got 2 levels ago. It's kind of hard to keep everything in your head.
All right, let's. I'm gonna update drivers. I'm gonna restart stream, and then we're gonna get ready to hop in game. Wait, it's just downloading on its own. What the fuck? What's the plan in 13 minutes? Well, if we haven't heard from Kraken, we'll figure out either we'll do a solo playthrough or me, Joe, and Lolman can do one. Like a throwaway kind of thing while we wait for him. We'll figure it out.